Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast, joined with Randall and Andy. We're going to be talking about some wide receivers here in a few minutes. You may notice that there's a lot of Draft Professor podcasts. We got, a couple on offensive line, a couple on corners. We only need one on wide receivers, and that's because we have Randall and Andy.
True.
This is prime time. We are digging deep into the wide receiver class to see where the draftable grades are. Andy, what did you think of this group of players that we're going to be talking about today?
It's a really interesting group. There's some names that I don't think I or even a ton of draft analysts were familiar with coming into the year. And then a couple of them were thought of as staples to this wide receiver class to start the year. It just shows you how college football can change so much within weeks, because I think a lot of our thoughts on these prospects have changed a lot in the past few weeks than what we thought coming into the year. So it's a very interesting group to monitor, and it'll be a fun episode today.
Yep. And I think something that should be pointed out is when Randall and Andy are giving you their assessment, they're doing it from watching 2025 game film. This is not them regurgitating whatever research they did in the summer. This is
Correct.
them making sure that the 2025 eval on these wide receivers is up to date. So the wide receivers that we're going to be talking about today are Caleb Douglas from Texas Tech, Romello Brinson from SMU, Hudson Clement from Illinois, Cayden Lee from Ole Miss, Donaven McCulley from Michigan, Jaden Greathouse from Notre Dame, DeAndre Moore Jr. from Texas, Barion Brown from LSU. Curious, Randall, how many of these guys were new to you for this podcast? Like, meaning you didn't even have eyes on them in the summer.
Two. Caleb Douglas and Hudson Clement.
Got it. So the first wide receiver we're going to talk about is Caleb Douglas from Texas Tech. It's 6'4", 205 pounds. Randall, what did you see when you watched Caleb Douglas?
Yeah, I saw a lot of good things. I saw some iffy things. He was a three-star prospect, started in Florida, turned into a three-star transfer. He was a high school quarterback and a wide receiver. In high school, got co-offensive MVP with the other quarterback on his senior Texas 5A team, which is kind of impressive. 2024, he had really good stats. He had 59 catches, 884 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And then through 8 games this year, he's had 33 catches, 512 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So a minor dip in statistics, but he still has had some good games like Arizona State, which was a big game. He had 4 catches for 19 yards, and then Houston, he had 7 catches for 114 yards, and then Utah 4 for 68. So some tough defenses, he's put up at least numbers on it. But for 6'4", 205, he's got that lean build that allows him to be at that height at 6'4", but still a crisp route runner, and he's got pretty good quick feet on the short and intermediate. He has an okay whip route, and it's elusive that he uses inside and outside. That's kind of nice. And then he also has really good footwork in working on out routes that can turn into wheel routes. So he'll show an out route and then do a double move, turn that into a go or a wheel, which then works out really well, especially with his tall build. He can win in contested catches situations like that. I would say for 6'4", he's got good speed. He doesn't have great speed. I think from what I've seen, he'll run like a 4.55, a 4.58, which for 6'4" is a little bit slower than you'd like, but we'll have to see that at the combine. He's got decent deceleration as well, so his hitches he can separate on. One of my favorite things is he's a really good blocker, and he's super physical. He wants to hit you hard right at the line of scrimmage. Even if he's not part of the play, he'll go after the cornerback, so I like that as well. Overall, his contested catch is lower for 6'4", which I'm a little concerned about with his drops. He's got 6 drops and only a 25% contested catch rate. At 6'4", you'd like that to be a little bit more. So with that being said, through 8 games for Caleb Douglas, I have him late day 3, probably a PFA. he gives me Caden Prather vibes.
Okay. Andy, what did you see on Caleb Douglas?
Yeah, Caleb Douglas, 6'4", 205. He's got that X receiver build that you want to see in these guys. But as Randall mentioned, his play style doesn't really seem like a prototype X. He is a solid athlete, but the contested catch rate isn't there. Douglas, though, has been very productive this year. Just a couple days ago against Oklahoma State, he had 5 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. A couple weeks ago against Houston, 7 catches for 114 yards. And then Oregon State, he had a 61-yard touchdown where got it, I think, 26 yards after a catch on that. So he's had some big-time moments this year. But I kind of fall in line with Randall on Caleb Douglas being a PFA guy right now, and I do really enjoy the Caden Prather comp because when I was watching back, I kind of got some of those vibes. Yeah.
Okay. Next player, Andy, Romello Brinson from SMU, 6'2", 190 pounds. What did you see when you watched Romello Brinson?
Yeah, Romello Brinson's another one this year that's been highly productive. 515 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns on the year for him. Shining against Baylor in the early part of the season with 4 catches for 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. What I really enjoyed was it was the Baylor game that I watched where he had a 75-yard touchdown, had like 40 yards after catch on it. That was kind of the play that got me like, all right, I'm in on Romello Brinson in a way. But there's still some stuff to work on. I mean, he isn't elite in any facet. I think he kind of lacks a trademark trait that some of these prospects have that gets them into the NFL. He's another one where I want to see what he can do in the last part of the year because the past couple weeks, 2 catches for 18 yards against Clemson, 3 catches for 13 yards at Wake Forest. So the production is really inconsistent here. But if Romello Brinson can kind of even out the production, keep it up, I could see him getting into the NFL, but I'd say he's a PFA right now.
Randall, what did you see with Romello Brinson?
Yeah, Romello Brinson, I'm a little bit higher on than Andy, to be honest with you. 6'2", 190 build, so I really like that build, especially in the NFL now. 190 is not bad. He's a redshirt senior, started in Miami. Miami recruiter, moved to SMU. He did have 24, so that's something to monitor because that causes inflammation in the knee, and he sat out a lot of 2024. But I actually like what I saw. Some of it did come from Baylor, some of it came from all the other games. But I really did love Baylor, and as Andy mentioned it, that touchdown was the first thing that sold me on Romello Brinson. I believe it was a sick double move to a post, and it was still underthrown, and he still got that. Love that. But I really like his route running at that 6'2", 190 build. Romello Brinson, he is 6'2", 190, but he does not sell go routes or any route at the stem. He stays straight up once he gets to the stem, and then he can plant his foot and really take off. I think he's got, I guess his third level speed might be questionable, but his second level speed is really, really interesting, especially in zone IQ or at the stem. He can separate in multiple ways that way. He's got a really good whip route for 6'2", 180, and I think whip route might be my favorite route to run, to be honest with you, because it's so sneaky, and even if you do it on the inside, it works out well. Romello Brinson has a really good whip route, and I love that. His contested catch is good. He's got 60% contested catch this year. His contested catch is good. He can find the high point of the ball, grab it. Really love that. He's a decent blocker for 190. He really contributes in the blocking game for that as well, as he should. My issues with his route running would be at the stem. Sometimes he gets too happy feet and he'll overrun his stem, or he will trip himself up after the stem, and then he'll lose his timing on it and his speed on it. So he just needs to kind of fine tune and kind of maybe settle down his route running because he seems like he's trying to do too much. I got a mid 5th round to a late 5th round on him. I like Romello Brinson. I think that Baylor showed his route running for Romello, and I like that about it. And I think that he could eventually take that step in the NFL.
And Randall, do you see him as an X receiver, or do you see him as a slot?
I see him as an X. I think he's a shifty X that can work in that department. But SMU motions him, so he can work in the motion because he's still quick enough. but I would see him as an X that can do other things.
Okay. So definitely warming up. Hudson Clement from Illinois, 6'1", 215 pounds. Randall, you said this was your first look at him because you hadn't watched him over the summer, right?
Correct.
So what did you think when you watched Hudson Clement?
I really liked that he's evolving into who he kind of is, because right now he's a redshirt junior. He was a 0-star prospect, got recruited to West Virginia, into a 3-star transfer, going to Illinois for his first year. So I really loved, again, as I talk about, one of my favorite things is people who start off as 0-star and work their way up and get to transfer into bigger competition. Incredible. In 2024 at West Virginia, he had 741 yards, 5 touchdowns. In 2025, he's only got 21 catches for 197 yards and 0 touchdowns. But what's interesting about his transition from West Virginia to Illinois is West Virginia only used him as an outside X, and Illinois is using him more as a power slot and an X. He's got 33% of his snaps in the slot, 66% out wide. So they're kind of using him on all facets. So he's probably getting accustomed to that and kind of just learning in the bigger competition. But he's got a good build at 6'1", 215, has that low center of gravity. So he's hard to take down. He had a really good game against Ohio State in 6 catches, 47 yards, and Indiana, 4 catches, 27 yards. Those were my highlights for him. But Hudson Clement, he's very animated in his route running. He has, like, at the stem, he has big shoulder shimmies. If he's doing a double move, he'll even clap his hands or make sure he uses head fakes. Always love that, to try and get them at least get you an extra half a yard of separation. Super physical in his route running. West Virginia, he used it a little too much in his physicality. He would just bet on him overpowering that corner and then catching in a contested catch situation. He does need to work on that, but it's showing, his physicality is showing in Illinois, which is really good, that he can handle the tougher competition physicality. Love that about it. Natural hands catcher, fluid and catch after the run. He's only got 2 drops this year. He had 3 drops last year, but that was under 5% drop rate. So he's got a natural hands catching. I love that. A couple knocks for Hudson. His deceleration is below average. That was a little surprising for me at 6'1", 215, but it's below average. It affects his intermediate route running and his short route running. Speed is questionable. Go routes, can't create separation. He's probably a 4.60 when it comes to the 40. The 0 touchdowns moving to Illinois is concerning, but his route running does look a lot better from 24 to 2025, which I really did love it. He had crisper route runners. Definitely more elusiveness in the second level instead of relying on physicality moving to Illinois. So as a redshirt junior, I think that Hudson Clement should go back to Illinois and then shine again one more year and then declare.
So Randall, is your current grade on him draftable relative to the other 32 wide receivers that we've evaluated so far?
No, right now he's a UDFA for me.
Okay. And for any Illinois fan watching, we cover his teammate next week. But Andy, what did you see on Hudson Clement from Illinois?
Yeah, I agree with Randall, pretty much spot on here on Hudson Clement. I think he fits the power slot role that Illinois put him in perfectly, in terms of, I think he's limited athletically to play on the outside at the next level. But I've been impressed with his route running out of the power slot this year, especially in the middle of the field. He gets the job done pretty consistently there. Won't blow you away athletically. The production isn't there yet. 197 receiving yards, no touchdowns this year. Hasn't really flashed in any game this year other than Ohio State, where he got 47 yards with 6 catches. So he's just one of those guys where I want to see him return to school next year. I want to see Hudson Clement's role get elevated at Illinois, and then we can start talking about him on a serious note for the NFL. But currently, I would fall in line with Randall on a UDFA grade here.
Okay. UDFA return to school for Hudson Clement. Okay, the next player we're going to talk about is Cayden Lee from Ole Miss, 5'11", 180. Andy, what else do you have on Cayden Lee?
Yeah, Cayden Lee. We covered an Ole Miss receiver last week, so it was cool to compare Cayden Lee to them. Just a shout to check out the last show after this one.
That's what I'm
yeah,
talking
Cayden
about.
Lee, 3 days ago against Oklahoma in a big game. Cayden Lee shined, 3 receptions, 60 yards. And really, it was the two you want to pay attention to are his 31-yard catch and his 25-yard catch. Good showing from him there. 5'11", 180. I think he fits a slot role quite well. I am interested, and I bet Randall knows this better than me, about Cayden Lee's eligibility, because I would say that he has the makings of a return to school player, but I did not go deep enough to see what his eligibility was at the moment. So I would say he's a return to school player right now, just because there's a lot left on the table with him on a production-wise, I feel like, and just in a stacked Ole Miss offense, there's not consistent enough targets on a week-to-week basis. But I like Cayden Lee out of the slot. I like his upside there. So currently I would have him as a return to school player.
So, Randall, what do you have on Cayden Lee from Ole Miss?
Yeah, Cayden Lee is an interesting one. I believe he is a junior, so he does have another year of eligibility. You are correct. Cayden Lee is an interesting one at 5'11", 180, three-star prospect, did really good in high school. The one thing that's interesting is that 2024 he had 874 yards and 2 touchdowns, obviously in the slot. 2025 it's down to 346 and 2 touchdowns right now. He's got his 2 touchdowns, but he's on pace not to get his yards. But really, like Ole Miss last year had Jackson Dart. This year it was Austin Simmons into Trinidad Chambliss. And we have seen, and there's nothing, Trinidad Chambliss is an amazing quarterback. I love what he's doing for Ole Miss. But there are some wide receivers on Ole Miss that have took a dip in production because switching quarterbacks, some people, clicked with who and whatnot, and you're starting to see that in that production. So you're starting to notice that for sure. But he's a quick-footed slot receiver, super fast, moves well in motion and short curls and passing games. Manufactured touches are so easy for him. It's super impressive. He's got incredible second and third level speed. It seems like his best jet is in the second level. That's something that I do love about wide receivers as well, is when you reach that stem and you can plant your foot and separate quickly is one of my favorite things. Cayden Lee can do that. He can do it on in-breakers and out-breakers. He can do on goes and posts. I like to see that. His releases at the line of scrimmage are a little rough, especially at his build. He has to be elusive and shifty at the line of scrimmage if it's press man. Can't really handle the physicality. It'll mess up his timing for sure. Stem work can be inconsistent, can get sloppy, but when it works, there's a lot of explosion in it. He really has to fine-tune his stem work, because if he does overrun it at 180 pounds, then he's pretty much stuck. Like, cornerback sticking on him, he's kind of done for, sort of thing. So he needs to make his route running crisper, because his manufactured touches are already there and everything looks good. And if he were to declare, I assume that Cayden Lee would be invited, to the combine and to some postseason games and things along those lines. But NFL should look at 2024 opposed to 2025. But I do agree with Andy that he should go back to school and possibly transfer out. It's always hard for me to analyze Ole Miss wide receivers sometimes, because a lot of their routes are quick hitches to either clear out on one side or just kind of do your job sort of thing, and they don't get as much action. Why, like a lot of yards per route run are lower at Ole Miss, except for Trey Harris last year. But with that being said, I think Cayden Lee right now would be a PFA. I think he could make it onto a team, but I do agree with Andy he should stay for another year and play.
Okay. So Cayden Lee is the second Ole Miss wide receiver we've evaluated. We did Harrison Wallace last week. Go check out that show. We have Cayden Lee this week, and in one of the next 2 weeks, we're also going to be evaluating Deshaun Stribling. So, yeah. Okay, so the next player, and I want to give a shout out to Marcus Johnson. So we did a Michigan preview. Marcus said there's something to that Donaven McCulley player. So that's how Donaven McCulley got added to scouting reports. Randall, what did Marcus see in Donaven McCulley you want to share with everybody else?
Yeah, 6'5", 215. Donaven McCulley, grad student, so he's been around for a little bit. He was a 4-star prospect starting in Indiana, and then he transferred over to Michigan. I'll talk about that last. But in 2023, he had 644 yards with 6 touchdowns, and then he had an upper body injury early in 2024 and decided to transfer. 2025, he's at 378 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's an outside X receiver. He's got 1.74 yards per route run. He's got over 50% contested catch, which is good for, 6'5", 215. His best game was in where you want to use him, Wisconsin obviously 6 for 112, but in Oklahoma he had 3 catches for 91 yards, and that was dynamite. Kind of showcased who he was. He's a physical wide receiver in his route running. One of my favorite things is he's a run blocker, and he is a fierce run blocker. One of my favorite things about him. He's a workhorse for Michigan. He's already approaching 500 snaps in between blocking and receiving, and they're about 50-50, and that's where that 1.74, that's why that's low, is they're putting him on the field for almost every single snap, and I love that. He's basically intermediate and deep threat only, and it's really based on mismatches. His frame is hard to defend in the slot versus nickel and has good strength and height for the outside corners. That works in a lot of ways. Contested catch is where he is the best. To the Oklahoma game, he absolutely mossed the free safety Spears Jennings. That was super impressive. Caught it on his back, brought it in. That's kind of what you're getting out of Donaven McCulley sort of thing. He had a great touchdown versus USC on a crosser that ended in a contested catch. In contested catch situations, McCulley definitely has strong hands and can rip it from you, and that's probably his highest quality when it comes to it. His speed is rough at 6'5", 215. Kind of looks like he has some sand in his pants, and it takes him 7 to 10 yards to get to maybe his second level of speed, and then it takes him a little bit longer to get to his full speed. So that's concerning because then cornerbacks can kind of just run with him a lot. My concern, which I'd like to kind of maybe get Andy's perspective on it, or maybe you didn't see it, and this is where it stems from, is I was reading some reports, and the reason he transferred out of Indiana was he was ready to transfer out of Indiana when Tom Allen got fired. And then Cignetti came in, they talked, he stayed. But then Cignetti, on a lot of reports and a lot of conferences, were talking about how he needed to up his practice play. He wasn't practicing hard enough. He needed to show that to get more reps in Indiana. I think they had it seems like they had a falling out, and that's another reason after he had that injury that he decided to. So I was curious about that, which then led me to when I was watching him in Michigan, I saw a lot of miscommunication with Bryce Underwood, and Bryce Underwood is a freshman, and I totally get that, so I'm curious about it. But there was a lot of routes where it looked like miscommunication on option routes, but I don't think that's happening in college sort of thing. And it would look like McCulley was just running the wrong route. Like there was one where McCulley looked like he was hesitating to fake that he was blocking, and he ran a post while Bryce Underwood threw a back shoulder fade to the corner pylon. So it was like really bad miscommunication. McCulley kind of like sulked a little bit after that. So I'm curious to see where that is and like how his interview processes will go. But it's something that I am monitoring overall. When it does come to McCulley, I do have him as a UDFA right now. I'm sure people would be enamored by his height and his profile, but the sand in the pants with the speed concerns me, and he's really just a contested catch guy.
Andy, what did you see with McCulley?
Yeah, Donaven McCulley is such an intriguing prospect on paper. 6'5", 215, the prototype X receiver build that everyone talks up. Very strong catch radius, a high point specialist, and he's a reliable hands catcher. However, I was concerned with a limited route tree. Couldn't find constant separation. I think the sand in the pants is completely accurate from Randall. I think he's still raw, and he's a graduate student. So to still be raw as a prospect is kind of alarming. And I just don't think there's enough explosiveness there for me to really be on board, because he's more of a long strider than an actual fast receiver. And I think Randall nailed it. The confusion with McCulley this year has been alarming, because I noticed that too. And it could be just Bryce Underwood. He's a true freshman. But at the same time, it happens with McCulley more than the other receivers. So that's alarming. I agree with Randall. I'd have McCulley in the UDFA range right now. But I would be interested to hear him out in the interview process. What happened at Indiana? What happened at Michigan this year with Underwood? What happened? That would be my question. What happened?
I'm trying to remember who were the two Indiana receivers? I know one is Surratt, and it was Omar
Cooper Jr.
Cooper.
Yeah. So were both Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr. on Indiana when McCulley was there?
Surratt for sure. Let me check
And
Omar
Cooper, you
Cooper
said
real
that he
quick.
was there. I remembered. I
Both
literally
were.
just listened
Yep.
to Andy's podcast on that about an hour ago.
Yep.
Cooper was there last year too,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
he could have also seen the writing on the wall for playing time.
For sure.
That's very true.
It's a possibility. Yeah, but I mean, there was some smoke. So I definitely by no means am I trying to insinuate anything along those lines. It did seem like him and Cignetti were not clicking. And Cignetti did mention practice performance. So I was just kind of put two things together to monitor as we go, because it seemed like those two puzzle pieces kind of did make sense. So I'm just looking to watch.
Yep. Next player. So Jaden Greathouse from Notre Dame, and that height is not correct. He's not 6'9", so I got to go back and
Wemby.
Fix that. What is the height that one of you have?
6'1".
6'1". Okay, so 6'1", 212. So I think if we had done this show with this group of receivers in August, he would have been the top-ranked prospect out of this group, based upon everything I heard coming out of the summer. But you guys don't have to agree with that. Just, Andy, what did you see from Jaden Greathouse of Notre Dame in 2025?
Yeah, Jaden Greathouse. He's dealing with an injury right now, I believe, and I'm not sure what the exact injury is.
Hammy.
But he's dealing with an injury. He hasn't played hammy. Okay, he hasn't played since September against Arkansas, and as a result, he only has 73 receiving yards and no touchdowns on the year. So the tape is very limited out there. But in the summer, I was a big fan of Greathouse because of what we saw in the CFP. So I would advise NFL teams to go back and look at that rather than right now. And we'll see how he makes the recovery towards and what he does at the end of the year. But Jaden Greathouse, polished route runner, diversified route tree, tough, competitive at the catch point, good play strength for 6'1", 212. Elite body control, demonstrates a ton of reliability, clutch and reliable in big play situations, converting on many third and fourth downs, excellent football IQ, and adjust routes based on coverage recognition, which I really liked. The concerns here were I didn't love his long speed. Most of his production came at the back end of last year, whereas we haven't seen production since the end of last year, since the CFP, really. Developing the nuances of his route tree still. He's been jammed at the line of scrimmage against press coverage fairly too often. So really, all of my notes from him have to come back from the summer because we just haven't seen enough of him playing football this year. So I'm really interested to see how he recovers, how he rebounds, and what his grade looks like at the end of the year. Because right now, I'm kind of lost on where to grade Jaden Greathouse, because in the summer I liked him as a day 2 guy, honestly. Now I don't know, because he didn't show any day 2 in the early part of the season and then got hurt. So I would probably say a vague day 3 grade on him right now, and we'll see how that looks at the end of the year.
Randall, where are you in Jaden Greathouse right now?
Yeah, Andy did pretty much kind of where I am at, because it is difficult. It's very hard to figure out, especially because I do think that he was maybe feeling it in Purdue and things like that. Like his Texas A&M tape did not look like what the 2024 tape looked like necessarily. He still had good things that happened in the Texas A&M game, but then you can tell that he had only one target in Purdue, and then Arkansas was a blowout. So to be honest, I didn't even watch his Arkansas tape because it just makes me sad. But when it comes down to it, it looks like they were like not giving him enough reps at that point because he was probably nursing one, and then they decided to shut him down after the Arkansas game because he was dealing with that hamstring injury. But I mean, Andy pretty much nailed it on the head with Jaden Greathouse. He can get pressed at the line, but he does have some decent press releases in his bag. Again, 84% contested catch rate in 2024. He has a basketball background, so you can tell in his high pointing the ball, strong hands at the catch point, really, really good in that. Great at finding soft spots in the zone. He only has one drop in college, as we were mentioning, his natural hands catcher. as Andy talked about, his breakout was the 2024 college football playoffs. So in my summer grading for Jaden Greathouse, I still my projection for him was him feeding off that and not just basing my summer grade off the college football playoff, because he didn't have a lot of crazy games before that. Like Texas A&M, he went 5 for 66, was probably his best game except for the college football playoffs when he went absolutely off. Had 3 touchdowns in those 2 games, absolutely crazy. What he does need to work on, which he should stay for another year for sure because of this hamstring injury. If he didn't have it, he probably could. But he really does need to fine-tune his route running. I think that NFL cornerbacks can kind of stick on him pretty well because his stem work is a little sloppy at times, and he kind of tried to use his physicality with his 212, 6'1", 212 build, and then hope for the contested catches to come because he's good at it. He really needs to figure out better ways to separate and then be able to have that contested catch in his back pocket to have that. But the injury came through. So when Andy mentions that Jaden Greathouse is a vague day 3, that's pretty much what I have him, a mid to late day 3, because colleges will probably look at that college football playoff and see what he can do. But I definitely think he should stay another year.
So, and actually to stay another year, if he had played this full season, he was out of eligibility if he had played the full year, right? So the only way he goes back to school is to get the medical red shirt?
I don't think so. I think he's a junior, right?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was a sophomore last year.
So he had another year of eligibility whether he hurt his hamstring or not.
Correct.
But it's still a draftable grade, even with what limited amount that we've seen. He still grades higher than several of the other undrafted players that we've podcasted on the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so I believe second to last player we're covering today, DeAndre Moore Jr. from Texas. Andy, what do you have?
Yeah, DeAndre Moore Jr. From Texas is an interesting one. I thought he showed exceptional body control when adjusting to off-target throws, which is interesting. I liked his work through contact at the catch point, demonstrated concentration, all that good stuff. Excellent contested catch situations. Despite, an average frame, I thought he made up for it fantastically with that natural hands catcher. Positional versatility, I think he has a profile that could work in the outside or the slot. So, an OC's dream in that way. But what I did not like as much is I think he'll time well at the combine speed-wise, but it doesn't equate to what you see consistently on separation in film. I think the frame lacks ideal length for boundary work at the next level, even though he can play it. I don't think he will play it at the next level. Release package needs refinement, wasn't great. And then he hasn't shown elite production. Like, I like the traits here with DeAndre Moore, but 330 receiving yards, 1 touchdown so far this year. And then last year was 456 yards, 7 touchdowns. So he's on pace to get more yards, but less touchdowns by a lot. So the production, and obviously a lot of that can come back to Arch Manning has struggled through the early part of this season. We can all admit to that. We can all agree to that. So that hurts receivers like DeAndre Moore. But I do like the tools here for DeAndre Moore, and he is a draftable player for me, but that draftable comes in day 3.
Okay, Randall, where are you on DeAndre Moore Jr. from Texas?
Yeah, agree with a lot. I mean, 6 foot, 192, played safety and wide receiver in high school and was a 4-star prospect. The 2020, I agree, the 2024 tape looked a lot better than the 2025 tape. I really like what I saw in 2024. And I agree with Andy, it comes down to the offensive line not playing as well for Arch Manning, than Arch Manning not following up playing well either. So that's a big issue with that production slot. But I agree. I mean, his route running is overall solid. In 2024, it showed a lot more than 2025, in my opinion. Again, he has a really, really good whip route, which I love. He uses it. It looks like he uses it on his out routes consistently, like his fake at the stem. When he's going for an out route, he just kind of dips in quickly on the inside and then comes back out. Does it frequently. It works. I do love it. His intermediate route running is good. His zone IQ is very good. Quick to the second level. And if he goes through in motion, he can hit that second level really quickly in zone, and you can just whip it at him real quick, and then he'll take off. That's like a good manufactured touch that you can make for him. Reliable hands. He had 5 drops last year, but now he's to 0 drops this year. So that's really good to see. Shows his speed after the stem. So I agree with Andy where it's like, where is his speed sort of thing. There's reports that he could run a 4.41 sort of thing, but I don't see that off the line of scrimmage. I see it when he reaches the stem, when he plants that foot in the ground and he takes off. That's where he can separate with his speed. My big knock for him is I do believe that his releases off the line of scrimmage and right before his stem is pretty predictable, and I kind of hope he gets it out of him. He kind of hesitates, and he does like a 2-hop right before he gets to the stem, and that easily shows that he's going for an intermediate or deep route because you can see like he's setting himself up to plant his foot and go. Saw it on film, seemed pretty predictable to me, so I think he's kind of got to get out of there if he's going to stay in school for another year. With that 192 build and 6 foot, his physicality can be an issue, especially at the stem. Quarterbacks and nickels especially can just kind of get on him in the first 5 and then lead with him and kind of run his route for him. Needs to work on that as well. Add that with the production and things along those lines. I believe, and just as Andy said, when it comes to DeAndre Moore Jr., is that I do believe with his traits, he could be in 2027 top 125. But as of today, probably late day 3.
Do you think the most likely outcome is that Moore goes back to school?
I hope so, especially with Arch Manning probably staying in Texas. I think that'd be a good call.
Andy, how about you? Do you think the most likely outcome is Moore goes back to school?
I think so, and I think it's the right decision.
Got it. Okay, so the last player we're going to cover is Barion Brown from LSU. And Randall, I believe we covered Barion Brown when he was at Kentucky last year when we were doing very similar podcasts. Randall, where are you on Barion Brown as an NFL draft prospect right now?
Yeah, we called out Barion Brown before we started podcasting in September when we did our first draft the team last year, if you remember. That's when we started talking about Barion Brown, which is pretty insane. But yeah, Barion Brown started in Kentucky, moved to LSU this year, 5'11", 185, 4-star prospect, 4-star transfer. When he went to LSU, he just went to LSU to get, that higher marquee. He's been producing since his freshman year, which is impressive. His freshman year, he got 51 catches, 625 yards, and 4 touchdowns. 2025, he's got 36 catches, 361 yards, and 1 touchdown. He's got 1.85 yards per route run. He's only got 3 drops. To me, he's a good field-stretching Z receiver with good speed. Reports are that he could break 4.3 speed in his combine. Straight line speed is nuts and he get to his top speed pretty quickly. I've seen some of his speed on go routes result in holding flags or defensive pass interference flags. That's how you know that cornerbacks are really nervous about his speed, which I love. At that 185 build, he needs to be shifty and elusive at the line of scrimmage, which he does a pretty good job at. I think his releases at the line of scrimmage can evade physicality, and he does a good job at that. His stem work is solid with the ability to decelerate, plant his foot in the ground. Good at locating the ball, and he has very, very late hands. Since he's 5'11", high pointing it is not going to be his number one, but he does really good at fades or back shoulders when it comes down to just using super late hands to deceive the cornerback that's not watching the ball. Love that about him. Even at his 5'11 frame, 5'11", 185, he's a willing blocker, and he definitely tries to. So even if he got to like 190, 193, he could block in the NFL, I believe. Definitely my knock for him is he needs to fine-tune his route running. I think he overvalues his speed. He really, if you're going to be an NFL receiver, all that speed's not going to work for him. Really needs to fine-tune pretty much everything when it comes to his route running. I think he's a little bit lazy in his route running because of his speed, so he needs to kind of get a check into it and make sure that he's just constantly working on it. Drops can be a concern. He does have some concentration drops, but overall, I've always been a big Barion Brown fan, especially as I love Z-type field stretching wide receivers. So I'm still a fan. I do believe that his dip in production led to, because Nuss's arm's not like what it used to be last year. So as a field stretching Z quality, which is why I think that he was going to LSU, was for being able to collaborate with Nussmeier in that field stretching. But Nussmeier's arm's not like what it was last year. So I don't think he's being utilized to his full potential this year, and that's where his production is. So with Barion Brown, probably running a 4.3, 4-3-3, 4-3-4 at best. Some team's going to fall in love with him. Right now, I have him at the beginning of round 4 because he does have really good special teams quality too in kick returning and punt returning, plus his speed. But he's not an NFL route runner, and he really needs to be one if he's going to be 5'11", 185 in the NFL.
Okay. Andy, where are you on Barion Brown from LSU?
Yeah, I think Barion Brown has blazing straight line speed, but he has to because he's 5'11", 185, and you don't see many guys with that archetype fully last in the NFL for a long time. Natural ball tracker, versatile offensive skill, quick twitch, lateral agility, good spatial awareness. So all of the traits really click together with him, and he has game-changing ability with that explosiveness. I think there's some inconsistency with the route tree. I think it's limited, and that will need to get better for, again, a 5'11", 185-pound guy to really succeed in the NFL. And he needs to continue his development in reading coverages and understanding them to maximize his route tree. But yeah, I like Barion Brown just because the traits are so elite, and this guy will go to the combine. He'll blow some scouts out of their socks and be drafted in, comfortably in day 3 as a result. I would probably put him in the 4th round right now. So yeah, I like Barion Brown.
So Barion Brown, I think both of you guys did a really good job there. A couple questions. Do you see Barion Brown at the NFL level as a wide receiver 3, as a special teams returner, or something different? Randall?
Right now, I see him as a wide receiver 4 or 5, depending on what team, but majoring in special teams. So not a lot of catches to start, and then kind of grow into to see if he can become a wide receiver 3. But I don't think he can step into the NFL and be a wide receiver 3.
Andy, how about you?
Yeah, I think he has potential to be a wide receiver 3 at the next level, but currently I would say he could, take that return ability into the NFL, start his career off like that, and develop into a starting wide receiver role.
Okay. So it should be noted that Barion Brown has 5 college kick returns for touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Right? None this year, but 1 his freshman year, 3 in 2023, 1 in 2024. So if your team needs a kick returner and he's there on day 3, he's probably at the top of your team's board.
All day.
Kind of thing. And then, I think as Randall and Andy said, you're bringing him on as a kick returner that is a wide receiver 4 or a wide receiver 5 on the depth chart. Because to me, everything I heard was how do I want to say it? The route tree doesn't really measure up to NFL standards.
Yeah, I think cornerbacks can figure out his route running pretty easily, just because it's not fine-tuned. So he'll tell in the first 5, and even you could probably trick him at the stem and then be able to latch onto him. Just small stuff like that NFL cornerbacks do all the time is what he needs to fine-tune to get better.
Okay, so at this point, we have gone through 33 wide receivers. We're halfway done. Today
crazy.
In college, we called it junior halfway. You have to have a party when you're halfway done.
There you go.
So, Randall, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how many true 4th round or better have we talked about? If we had to take a guess, maybe
Ian Strong,
for sure.
You had, I think somebody had Chase Roberts as early day 3, right, from BYU.
I believe Andy did.
Yeah, I had him in the 4th to 5th. So
yeah.
Okay.
We'll go 125.
Omar Cooper Jr.
Top 125.
Omar Cooper
Jr.
we both had in the 3rd.
Yep. Who was the
Was it Mississippi State?
I did have
We
Brennan
both like
Thompson
Griffin
in my-
Wild.
Yes, thank you. That's what Griffin Wild. Griffin Wild. That was a good one.
Yep.
I am still a fan of Brennan Thompson. I will not let that one go
Yep.
for a little bit.
And then, so I have the wide receivers you've given draftable grades to highlighted.
Nice.
So the wide receivers we've covered that I believe that there was 2 draftable grades, right? Because we've had some where Randall said draftable, Andy said no, or vice versa. But Colby Young from Georgia, Coy Eakin from Texas Tech, Ian Strong from Rutgers, Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State, Chase Roberts from BYU, Griffin Wild from Northwestern, Trebor Pena from Penn State. Did you guys have a draftable grade on Harrison Wallace from Ole Miss?
Yes.
Yep.
Let me double check though.
I forgot to highlight him. And then Omar Cooper Jr. from Indiana, Sincere Brown from Colorado, Omega Blake from Arkansas. And then today,
Those are good ones.
was Barion Brown the only draftable grade today?
Yeah, except outside of maybe like 6th and 7th. Yeah, just because a lot of those guys, like really good wide receivers, definitely in the nil era and college the way it is with the opportunity to go back, definitely take that route sort of thing.
Yeah, and then Randall had a draftable grade on Romello Brinson, but that was not consensus. That was not consensus.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's been 11 draftable grades that Randall and Andy have given on the 33 wide receivers that we've evaluated. The advantage of that is that we still have 32 wide receivers left, and here are the wide receivers for next week. Deshaun Stribling from Ole Miss, Antonio Williams from Clemson, J. Michael Sturdivant from Florida, Dane Key from Nebraska, Eric Rivers from Georgia Tech, Skylar Bell from UConn. I know that's somebody that Andy likes. Dylan Bell from Georgia, Kevin Coleman from Missouri, and Hank Beatty from Illinois. So we're going to be doing 9 next week.
Quickly, 5 or 6 draftable.
Definitely. So the podcast will get better, right? We are just warming up. But Andy, do you want to let everybody know about all the draft content that you make and where they can find it?
Yeah, I'm Andy NFL on Twitter and Substack. Consistent draft content coming out all season long, covering a ton of prospects and having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, follow me.
And Randall, how about you?
Yeah, at Randall Cipher. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky. I try and respond to everybody on there. I do a Buffalo Bills podcast with Do Champions on Mondays at 8:30 Central, 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. I write for Team MBS Media for the Arkansas Razorbacks and Buffalo Bills, and then I'm also part of their NFL Draft Central that does something similar like this at the end of the year and go through those and things like that. Then I also do a Saturday college football recap podcast with Greg Rector on 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Saturdays.
Welcome to the Draft Professor, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We are here every day at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, breaking down the draft class. So every podcast is a relatively similar format for what Randall and Andy just did. The only thing that changes is which positions we're covering. So the entire schedule, you can see if you go to NFL Draft Fanatic, no I am Fanatic, and you go to the pinned post on Twitter, it outlines the schedule for you. So essentially, Monday, we do quarterbacks early. We do defensive linemen late. Tuesdays, normally it's wide receivers early, offensive linemen late. Wednesdays, corners early, defensive line late. Thursdays is safeties early, running backs late. Fridays will be linebackers early with corners late. Saturday, it's offensive line. Sunday, it's defensive line. The basic idea is to get multiple opinions on where the draftable grades are in the class and to try to podcast on everybody that is being drafted in rounds 1 through 5. So we're trying to cover a majority of the draft class at the Draft Professor on our podcast. So next week, I think I already listed the wide receivers. We've done 33 of the 64 wide receivers that we're going to cover. So the last 3 shows are probably going to be the wide receivers that you hear about everywhere else. But we're making sure that we cover the class in depth. So we have a runway of 5 shows to try to find some of the late round guys. For Randall, for Andy, for myself, for the 107 people at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you on a podcast again tomorrow, everybody.